A very good morning, everyone. I'm your host for the session, Yash Shazlan from IMAI. Welcome to the panel discussion on the future of cloud gaming. We would like to begin by thanking you all for being a part of Gator 2021, Digital Gaming the Next Leap. We would also like to thank our partners, our title partner Games 24/7, powered by Apps Flyer in association with Krakier, Platinum Partner OnePlus, Content Delivery Partner Limelight Networks, supported by Invest India and Knowledge Partner RedSale. Without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce to you our moderator for the day, for the session, Mr. Rahul Puri, editor and founder of the Gaming Report. We also have a distinguished set of leaders joining us today. Mr. Pawan Awasthi, Head Consumer Marketing, NVIDIA South Asia, Sarang Attri, co-founder, The Gaming Project, Amitabh Nagpal, Head of Startup Ecosystem, India, AWS, and Leela Shankar, founder and CEO, Krypton Cloud Gaming. I would request all delegates to keep posting their questions in the chat box, and the panel will address a few at the end of the session. Over to you, Mr. Rahul Puri.
Thanks, Yash. Hello, everyone. Let's quickly start this. In the last few years, in my opinion, gaming has become one of the fastest growing industries in India, and without a doubt, the industry has been kind of at the forefront of innovation and progress. And this addition of cloud computing to the world of gaming has further revolutionized the ecosystem. I think everyone will agree to that. And the advent of cloud gaming is shaping new possibilities of not just how games are played, but also owing to the innovative network technologies. It's only a matter of time uh, that this cloud gaming becomes very, very mainstream. So, in this discussion, we aim to explore the current state of cloud gaming industry, the competitive landscape, the emerging new technologies that are shaping this industry, and the barriers basically which is faced by very key players of the industry. Yash has already introduced the panelists to everyone. I'll just talk about the discussion points that we are just going to discuss. So we'll discuss how pandemic has affected the gaming industry in India. What are the factors that are responsible for the this increase in interest in cloud gaming? As opposed to particularly as opposed to device-based gaming. What does a switch to cloud gaming mean? What are its benefits? The competitiveness in the cloud gaming landscape? How innovative network technologies can improve this cloud gaming experience? The role of AI in all of it, and the significant challenges that are faced by companies in going, mainstream with cloud gaming. Uh, Pawan, I'll ask you my first question. Hi. The COVID-19 basically saw a shift in media and entertainment. We all know that. Specifically, the media and entertainment consumption trends has seen a shift. What, according to you, were the reasons that rapidly turned consumers towards gaming platforms during this period? Pawan. Pawan, I think you're on mute. Can't hear you.
Hear me?
A bit now, but we just lost you.
Think, I was- Do you think it is better?
Yes, Pawan, this is much better. We can hear you.
All right.
You can hear Pawan?
Yes, I can hear you, and I hope you can hear me also now. Sorry about this little bit of glitch here. Very interesting question, Rahul. Thank you for that, and hello everyone on the panel. And really glad to be part of this forum that we have. Coming back to your question, Rahul, this adoption of gaming in India was actually happening before COVID. We know that culturally, gaming wasn't really part of our daily life. But whole thing has started changing almost 3-4 years back. What COVID has done is that it has accelerated this adoption of gaming as a viable entertainment option in our everyday life. I think that COVID definitely has done, and reason being that people have really started seeing as a viable entertainment option. The second reason is that there used to be a social stigma attached to gaming when it comes to the youngsters and teenagers. But when everybody was like confined into a room kind of a setup, then the parents also started taking interest in the gaming because kids used to play games and they have also understood the pluses and the minuses of it. Usually they used to see the cons of this entire gaming part of it. So they have also started accepting gaming as a part of their kids' daily routine or teens' daily routine. So I think that's what COVID has done, if you really ask me. It has accelerated it. Good thing is that it was already happening. And the better thing probably is that it will continue to happen because it's been 18 months. The habits have been formed, uh, options have been explored, and it is definitely an option for someone to spend their time, leisure time around. So yeah, I think that's what my take is.
Thanks, Pavan. And I also do believe the habits have been formed. But Sarang, according to you, along with this upward trend that Pavan just spoke about, we have also seen dramatically increased traffic demands, right? So
Yeah.
particularly in the cloud gaming space and streaming spaces. So what are the factors, according to you, that are responsible for this notable increase in cloud gaming and the shift away from PC and console-based processing?
Sure. Hi. First of all, hi everyone. Hi Rahul. Thanks for moderating. And I think the simple thing, and I love Pawan's take on it, that yeah, given that I am from that generation who faced that social stigma and we turned it into a career, that was a true thing. But yeah, like traffic increased, and we saw that in real time. So our platform literally went live weeks before the lockdown happened. And so in real time, we saw the difference in how people started to, like, literally adapt to it on the fly. Because like a lot of gamers, including, like, so we are based out of Delhi. And in Delhi, you would see there's a culture of gaming cafes here as well. So, and people can't go to gaming cafes anymore. And so they would automatically they found ways what to do about it, whether it was cloud gaming, online gaming, like any sort of way that they could, like, in a very simple way, pass the time. But also the simple way to also look at cloud gaming in general, related to the traffic itself, was, I mean, it simply comes down to the fact that the reason anyone does cloud gaming as a concept is your hardware doesn't matter anymore, right? And so if you, and especially in a country like India, for example, where that there is a thing that, if you just total out people who could afford an Xbox, or afford any sort of console service, they're always going to be less than the guys who couldn't afford it, or like me, who had to convince their parents 3 years just to get them to buy me a gaming PC, and then 1 year down the line the PC would be obsolete, right? Because the game developers keep upping their game in terms of demand. So it was these factors that kind of brought in together. I'm not going to say the pandemic was not horrible, but I will, given the fact that yes, the pandemic also brought back the simple thing of people finding alternate ways to just uh, have a good time, even if that was in the online world of gaming.
Right. Thank you, Sarang, for your quick opinion on that. Amitabh, I just wanted to come to you with a very simple question, right? Um, this cloud computing has taken over the gaming industry. We all know that. Users are now on equal footing. The potential for developers and publishers is increasing. So, what does this particular shift mean for the gaming ecosystem as such?
See, I think if you actually fundamentally look at it, the first thing that it does, it makes gaming mass scale. Fine, that a lot of people can play gaming in, say, the developing economies, because you don't actually have to now have a 40,000 or a 50,000, $1,000 device to play gaming. Fine. Now, as as the cloud compute capability, if you look at it over the last 4 5 years or 6 years, has increased, fine, And if you look at from any cloud vendor and Amazon perspective, over the time that we started cloud computing and we actually got this, we've actually been able to launch multiple cloud services. Fine. So when we look at trends coming in, say IoT services get launched, AR/VR services get launched. Now, as gaming is evolved, we are launching a lot of gaming services. And what these will do is that it will drive innovation up. Fine. So lot of entrepreneurs, like you see, are right now in the panel, and different panels, they'll come in and top of the stack will create will create multiple cloud gaming companies, or will just create platforms, or will even create some services that actually enable cloud gamers to happen. Fine. So the from our perspective, what we are going to do is definitely keep on making the service stack richer and richer and richer, that the experience of the gaming gets much better, and the game developers are focusing on their own competency and not figuring the complications of the stack, which is a very difficult engineering capability to build in.
Sure. Thanks, Leela. I quickly wanted to come to you, asking, how are these gaming companies meeting the demand of their growing user base in the cloud gaming space?
Cloud gaming is as backstage we were talking, like, first of all, hi Rahul, and hi to the panel. So cloud gaming is essentially like gaming hardware as a service or infrastructure as a service on top of already gaming. So it's kind of two platforms, two services at the same time. So especially the challenges of cloud gaming is that we need to have our own data center, or we need to have our own gaming library, and also our own gaming hardware at the same time. So we're essentially a cloud service with a with a gaming service. So essentially the two services. And also, if you look at the market, right, everyone is jumping on the bandwagon right now in the cloud gaming, right, from the biggest companies in the world to everyone else, from startups and everything. But the thing is that it's really, to start, for a startup to actually scale it that a level, it's really hardware expensive. It's really expensive in terms of the hardware, maintaining our own servers, or collaborating with, let's say, AWS or Azure or other services. On top of that, we're having games, and also the latency. Latency is the biggest factor over here. We need to get our servers, whatever the company, maybe it can be Google Stadia, Amazon's Luna, or whatever it is. We need to bring our servers closer to the users, closer to the gamers. Like, literally, an ideal scenario would be, we need to have data centers at every metropolitan city in that country for us, for any cloud gaming service to actually go provide a really good user experience. But if you look at that at the logistics perspective and infrastructure perspective, it's literally building your own servers, or if you're collaborating with someone else like AWS, it's like distributing our own servers all across the country, or all across the region. So that's where it's a really big hindering for a lot of startups and a lot of people who really want to come into cloud gaming. So it really requires deep pockets to actually go wide and go mass and provide good gaming experience for the users.
Thank you, Leela, for bringing out this fact. Amitabh, I quickly wanted to come back to you before I move to Pawan. And I wanted to understand if you can shed some light on how stiff the competition is in this area. Because as I believe, it's only the entire cloud gaming market is concentrated with only a very few organizations holding a major market share. So tell us how stiff the competition is.
And when you say competition, are you meaning in terms of with what infrastructure provider are startups using in gaming?
Yeah, tell us in general, because when as a gaming company, if I have to choose a cloud server, I have, I think, about 5, 7, 8 options, right? So talk about that kind of a competition.
Okay. See, I can't talk much about what the competition do, because everybody has their own agenda and their roadmap. Now, if you actually look at just the cloud per se, fine, and we started building the cloud in 2006. We have years of roadmap ahead of our maturity than even the second one, fine. And all of us are tech product people. When we know that time, there's no, experience in engineering infrastructure is not something that you can sandwich in time, right? So if you even look at startups that work on top of AWS, or customers that we have on AWS, far exceed anybody else, fine. And over the years, we've actually launched close to 200 services on top of AWS, which far exceed anybody else. So, for example, anybody comes into gaming, for example, we have a service called AWS Accelerate, which pretty much solves for a lot of the latency things that are getting addressed here, fine. And there's a typical way that works, fine, where the traffic actually goes on to our edge networks, and we solve for. And a lot of companies have actually solved for latency in gaming with that. And I'm talking about countries like Korea, fine, which have everybody is a gamer there, right? So we've actually solved these problems in countries like that. And even here, in terms of more regions that we are launching in India, there's a new region that is coming up in Hyderabad. There are I was talking with right now itself on, there is a way that CDN traffic gets routed across edge networks, which are predominantly even available in at least 16 metros more, fine. So better engineering infrastructure, more services related to gaming, just enable us to stay far ahead of the curve. And we ourselves do a lot of acquisitions. About Twitch, you know about Luna. So we are pretty much in the thick of things, and make sure that startups that start on us just get the best engineering infrastructure, that they can actually build the best gaming experience for their customers.
All right, Amitabh, thank you for that. I was looking at more from more of a ecosystem kind of an answer, but that's okay. So Pawan, I quickly am moving to you, and I have also seen at the same time, while it is picking up, I've also seen cloud gaming services, at this moment, at the current moment, are not able to create the impact that we expected while it was launching. What were the factors behind this? We did not start with a big boom, I would say. Pawan, your audio, I think.
Gone again? Oh my God, it's gone again? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's just 1 on 10.
0.
Pawan, we can't hear you. Is anyone able to hear Pawan on the stage? No. So Pawan, I think you can fix up your audio. While you're fixing that up, I quickly want to move to Sarang, and I'll come back to you, Pawan, once you fix up your audio. Sarang, just tell us about the potential of disrupting, the established gaming monetization models, and what opportunities does the cloud gaming sphere hold in terms of revenue generation and monetization?
Sure. So there are a number of ways you can do that, and it's something. I mean, it's almost somewhat related to your question to Amitabh and Pawan, because a number. So that's the simple thing about cloud gaming, that no one actually. I mean, if you look at it from a normal perspective, that everyone's at the same stage, even if it's a big company or a small company, and everyone is actually trying to figure out what is the model that works in terms of revenue generation, monetization, etc. So, and then you have companies who do it from a straight up subscription point of view, right? Google Stadia, Luna, us, whether you're talking about simply ad-based cloud gaming services, which I'm not able to recall the company, but I think one's a Chinese and one's a Singapore-based company. And so all of these have like different models, but the core issue of the fact is the back-end cost for the cloud gaming company is a little bit on the higher side because of the GPU cost involved, right? And so the only way revenue generation works for a cloud gaming company is on a premium model. And that is kind of the opposite way to think about it, because the consumers who are going for cloud gaming are probably the ones who are going for it because they can't afford a gaming PC. So there's a switcheroo kind of like situation going on just in terms of the model and what is the one which is going to be successful or not. But the cool part is you can actually figure out ways where you can provide a service, like suppose it's a subscription-based service, which a number of companies do. But on top of it, you can actually generate models where the users themselves can generate revenue, which is through like, if you connect your services through live streaming platforms like Twitch, right, or YouTube, or even to your own platform. And in that ways, what happens is even if you're not able to afford, or you're just able to afford cloud gaming, you can actually put those videos up on, like, because now your hardware won't matter. You can actually put those videos up on streaming platforms and generate revenue at the same time. And obviously, if you're a free user, if you're just watching the stream, then the platform itself can generate revenue through you via ads. So again, this is given that it's a very, very early industry in terms of just figuring out what model works. Everyone is trying everything. Google Stadia tried 3 different things in terms of like how to generate revenue. And that was subscription, games, and this kind of as streaming monetization. Luna is going for a straight up subscription initially tied to their existing model. I'm guilty of running a subscription based service right now. So yeah, it's everyone is figuring out their model, but it does seem like because people are also very much used to paying a subscription now, Netflix, Amazon Prime, whatever you want to call it, like, so it does seem that will be the model to go forward with, and figuring out the backend cost is something that the rest of the companies will have to kind of work on.
Right, Sarang. It took a couple of years for both Netflix and Prime to kind of establish the base.
Yeah.
And we understand cloud gaming will take that kind of space. But Pavan, you want to do a quick sound check?
Sure. I hope I'm audible now.
No, Pavan. Unfortunately, I think we are having some problem with Pavan's audio. But then I'll move to Leela in that case. Leela, can you talk about the let's Leela talk about the significant challenges that companies are facing, during this very exciting cloud gaming wave, I would put it.
Yeah, I mean it's the same thing. Yeah, it's like cloud gaming services are nothing but cloud infrastructure companies with gaming as a package. Gaming is a frontier for them to actually utilize the cloud, and as we already told, as we already discussed over here, it's the latency. It's a game of latency. If someone is actually winning at cloud gaming, they have figured out 2 things. Number one, the lowest latency. Number two, monetization strategy. If 2 things are checkboxes of any company, that will be the company that will shine down the line in any cloud gaming, in the cloud gaming industry, because those two are actually the things that are stopping a lot of people actually to actually blow it up. And obviously the infrastructure, right? We need the gaming centers, whatever it is, whether there's a gaming center or a gaming server, as close to the users as possible. So whether it can be edge computing nodes all over the country. I mean, traditionally how Netflix and Amazon Prime Video, this OTT platform work is that they have maybe 1 or 2 servers in a country, right? Like in Amazon might be hosting Netflix servers right now in Mumbai, and that would be serving the entire country with CDN networks in separate ISPs. That would work for an OTT because it's a passive content, right? A movie once recorded and uploaded to a server, it will be the same movie. Maybe 1,000 people are seeing the movie at the same time, but it's the same movie. The content of the movie doesn't change. But the challenge with gaming is that we don't know how a user reacts, right? Every frame is a newly generated frame. It's an active content, active streaming, right? In that scenario, all your inputs, all the players keyboard and mouse inputs needs to go to the server. It server needs to play the game, and then it needs to relay back the video to the computer, all through the networking, right? And obviously it takes some time for the internet, for the signal to actually go from your computer, for the client's computer to the server, and then come back. Latency is nothing but but the time it takes for this turnaround time, right? The signal to go to the server and come back to the computer. So physically, the closer the server is to the client, the better experience the client or the user have over here. So literally, as I already told, maybe a cloud gaming service like Google Stadia or Amazon Luna, if they can figure out, I mean, AWS has a lot of what should I say, capability, and also a lot of name to them that they're the cheapest and fastest, right? So if they can actually have nodes at every place where there are cluster of users who are highly capable of using the service, then that can be low latency as well. And also, if you it's the monetary model. Like if you see Google Stadia, first it implemented, right, $10 Stadia Pro subscription on top of purchasing a game. A model like that may not work in India because obviously you're paying separately for the server and paying separately for the game. This two kind of model maybe not it won't work in Asian markets, because it's like double charging on the same game or double charging on something else in countries where they only look for a single charge and mostly affordable prices. So these two things, the latency and the pricing model.
Yes, except pricing model, Leela, do you think in any way AI and deep learning uh, can help or can give you a flawless cloud gaming experience and kind of move you away from the challenges that you're currently facing?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. AI has a lot of implementations. If you see at the on the business level, right, AI analytics, we will actually all the game recommendations and what kind of games people are playing. It on the business level, AI obviously has its own place, and we all know that. But on a gaming front, right, I'll give you an example. NVIDIA has this technology called DLSS, Deep Learning Super Sampling. So what it does is that, to just give you an example, let's say I'm playing a game like GTA 5 or RDR2, which is called as Red Dead Redemption 2. If I'm playing that game, if I have a computer if I'm playing on this computer, and let's say it has a 3090 GPU, it's a graphic card, it's a model of graphic card. And if I'm playing on a monitor which is like full HD monitor, so that monitor has around 2 million pixels, a full HD monitor. And every time I'm playing the game, every frame, the GPU or the graphic card needs to render each and every pixel. It needs to compute each and every pixel for every frame, and there need to be at least 60 frames per second for a good playable experience. So every frame 2 million pixels and 60 times a second. That's how the computing load on a GPU is normally. This is what exactly is happening. But as we go into the future, right, we're getting 4K gaming, 8K gaming, even some people are doing 16K gaming, right? But the problem over here is that the hardware is not being the hardware what should I say, the evolution of hardware is not keeping up with the game developers imaginations. We are having new technologies like ray tracing, we are having a lot of other technologies. But what this DLSS is doing is that instead of, if for example, if I'm playing a game at say 4K in a 4K monitor, right, 4K has approximately 4 times the pixels of 1080p, which is 8 million pixels. So instead of GPU computing 8 million pixels for every frame, there's a new method where it will only compute 2 million pixels at 1080p, and using AI, right? There'll be a separate AI chip on the graphic card which will use that 1080 frame and enlarge it to 8K frame using AI. So this is where exactly AI is mostly impacts gaming, right? We have this is called NVIDIA's DLSS, and also AMD has its own competitor.
If Pawan's audio is back, I think Pawan could talk more about it because it's NVIDIA's technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm trying. I don't know whether
Your
I'm
audio is
audible.
back, Pawan. Good, good. You can.
Oh my God.
Now it's good.
I guess I need DLSS version for my audio also. So you're right. And I have not done anything except plugging it and unplugging the headphone. So,
Biggest problem
anyways,
gets solved just by switching off and switching on.
Turn it on.
right. Right. So what Leela has spoken about is right. I think DLSS is almost magic for somebody who doesn't really understand technology. What it does is basically it takes your, it learns itself by seeing the render by the GPU and applies it to the subsequent renders. So essentially, it reduces the workload and gives you a better quality. That's what it does basically. It's called deep learning super sample. And AI is the one which is fundamentally behind it as a driving technology. Before AI, this was not possible. Practically, theoretically, it was. But AI has enabled this. And as a result, I think the computing horsepower that one requires to experience, let's say, 4K kind of a gaming comes much cheaper and affordable to you. at the same time maintaining the quality.
Right, Pawan. And while we are on the topic of such futuristic AI, and we are able to hear you, I just wanted to understand in just a minute. Uh, just talk about the future of the cloud gaming industry. Uh, just a minute, and I'll just
Sure.
after Pawan, I'm going to Amitabh, then Sarang, then Leela in the same order. Pawan, you first.
Sure. So I present a PC gaming part of the ecosystem, so to speak, and my perspective actually primarily is from that point of view. And we know that when we talk about PC gaming, we talk about quality AAA kind of a game and an experience which it gives to you as a uh, enthusiast or a hardcore gamer. And the cloud gaming service that we have, or the game streaming service that we have, is called GeForce Now from NVIDIA's side. It is still not yet available in India, but it is definitely available in many countries. And we have been out of beta for almost 18 months now, for now. And we have more than 1,000 games in as a support in the library. And most of these games are AAA kind of a title and the sports title. So our bet is on that particular aspect, where we are betting on the experience part of the gaming without compromising on the experience. How can we enable millions of PC even in our country, which are underpowered from the typical gaming PC perspective, and for example Macs, and hundreds of millions of Android or iOS devices, etc., which could be your smartphone, which could be our iPad, and it could be our tablet also. So that is what our focus is, giving the same kind of an experience that you get on a gaming PC. How can we enable it for all these devices? And that's why our focus is not only on the streaming side of it, but also the focus is on the infrastructure part of it. So essentially through GeForce Now, we are lending you a GPU on non PC devices, as well as on the PC devices, but you need to have games as part of your own library. So that's how we are operating, if it answers your questions, Rahul. And we see obviously a huge upside. And I think almost every week we are adding some 10 to 12 game titles. So I think, yeah, I mean, that part is getting enriched as we speak every day.
Absolutely, Pawan. Thank you for your inputs, Amitabh.
Yeah. So if you look at from perspective, fine. So we have Luna is the cloud gaming platform that we've launched in US. And if you look at from a services perspective, there is an AWS Accelerate service that a lot of the cloud gaming providers and gaming providers are using, fine, uh, in terms of improving latency. In terms of how we see the market going ahead, definitely, I think as 5G comes in, you will see a lot of the latency problems also getting addressed. Definitely, definitely in countries where the device gaming did not have that a bit of uptake, we definitely see a larger increase of mobile gaming. And I think even COVID has been a catalyst to um, there's a stepping curve that I see that getting over. So we will see a lot. We do see a lot of interest in cloud gaming right now, and hence our infrastructure services that we are building, we are actually accelerating them a lot.
Sir, thank you so much, Amitabh, for your views. Sarang, you want to contribute?
Sure. So the first, I mean, this very simple reason we start. I think Leela might even share my opinion on this. Is when we started cloud gaming, the simple reason was that because we couldn't play a game or we couldn't afford the gaming hardware. That's where we started. I already see him nodding. So that is the reason we started our service, and that is the future. Even we see from a perspective of a gamer as well as from a guy who's running a cloud gaming company, that your hardware will become irrelevant a little by little. To be honest, that's the same thing with mobile gaming. Like what mobile gaming did to the industry was anyone could game, just on their fingers, and that's the simple advantage of cloud gaming. Now because that game won't matter. People still are confused. Like Can I play GTA 5 on my computer? Can I play it on my mobile? Can I play it on my Xbox? Like, what do I play it on? So that's the future of cloud gaming, where it doesn't matter what you're playing it on, because everything will be able to run everything. And if you look at it from a technology way, yes, Amitabh's right. 5G is going to be a game changer, because right now it's people with broadband who are able to play on a cloud gaming service. Probably not the guys who are still running 4G. Doesn't matter what country. So it's 5G that's going to be a game changer in terms of the tech itself, and from a business point of view, it will be it's something that you already see in OTT platforms like Netflix, Amazon. It's going to be a content war. So that is going to be something that's going to, like, either it's the model that Nvidia or even us as a platform is going for, that it's your license that's going to be the thing that makes a big difference, or it's going to the fact that people are like, you gamers are going to be lazy of the fact that I don't want to buy my licenses anymore, you have to provide me the game. Which again, both models are something that are like, they're in a marathon right now and no one knows who's going to win. So yeah, that's the part that we will have to figure out.
Thanks, Sarang. And I'm surprised no one spoke about the audience side of it. Maybe Leela, you want to touch upon it, the future
Yeah,
of cloud
perfectly.
gaming from the audience perspective.
Perfectly. I mean, I think Sarang actually put it very right. I mean, if you can see over here, it's my first laptop which I got in 2014, in my BTech second year, and I enjoyed gaming. It's a gaming laptop. I spend around 50, 60, I think, but I enjoyed gaming on that at medium settings, maybe for 1 to 1.5 years. After that, I can't actually game on it, right? I can still work on this laptop like basic web browsing and basic Excel and Word doc, but I can't play GTA 5 or what I do on that because it became obsolete. It's the same thing, right? The thing is that most of the Asian markets, right, it's a very big investment, and also consoles are comparatively cheaper when compared to a computer in markets like India. But there are a lot of people actually don't prefer consoles because it's only a utility, right? It's only a gaming device. I can't do anything else. But something like a computer, at the same rate, I can do a lot of other stuff. I can watch movies, I can do my work, I can play my games and whatever. I can do a lot of stuff. But once cloud gaming actually becomes a thing, they don't have to even have a computer. A basic mobile phone will do the job. I mean, the first wave of gaming actually hit when actually Geo actually came and gave free internet for 3 months for everyone in India, right? That, and also with the Chinese mobile manufacturers pushing a lot in India, the Xiaomi's, Vivos, and Oppos, right? They got cheaper phones became better, and also we got internet on top of that with the help of Geo. That's how PUBG revolution started. That was the first wave. The second wave was the pandemic. Until before the pandemic, right? Finally, after that, fortunately, unfortunately, finally, in terms of talking in terms of cloud gaming, having a basic internet connection and a basic laptop or a smartphone have moved from being a luxury to necessity because of the pandemic right now. Like everyone who's working from home at least have a mobile hotspot on them and a basic laptop. And cloud gaming enables them to actually play on these kind of devices. And obviously, I'm really excited for 5G, right? Inherently, at least the best 4G connection has around 100 milliseconds, more than 100 milliseconds of latency, which is not playable or a good experience on a cloud gaming service. But with the advent of 5G, we can cut that down to 10 to 20 milliseconds. So 5G, along with a lot of with a device in our hands, whether it can be a computer or a smartphone, we can play n number of games. And also, it's a really win-win situation for the developers as well, right? Let's say if a game like PUBG, right? It needs to have at least 4 development teams. One development team for Android, one for iOS, one for Windows, one for macOS. If it has 4 platforms. But in cloud gaming, since the game is being played on the cloud, the server can be of a Linux server or a Windows server, but it can be
Platform.
streamed through a normal
Yeah.
app on whatever platform it is, right? So it's a win-win situation for everyone over here.
Sounds very promising, Leela.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone. Pavan, Leela, Sarang, and Amitabh. And I just want to conclude with, by saying that with more companies venturing into this gaming industry, and also with the advancement of technology, I think the integration of the cloud with gaming is undoubtedly enabling its democratization and enhancing accessibility. And as we move close towards a future where the cloud will become a very, very integral part of the gaming industry, it is imperative to understand and carefully tackle all the obstacles that are prevalent in today's age and time. This, of course, will happen with time, and the tremendous growth that we are witnessing currently makes it very, very evident that it won't be very long before more players adopt cloud gaming, more companies adopt cloud gaming, basically to provide a hassle-free, immersive gaming experience to uh, their audience, consumers, customers. Right, on that note, thank you everyone for joining us today. This is Rahul Puri, founder and editor of Agency Reporter, signing off now. Thanks.
Thanks, Rahul.
Thanks, Rahul.
All right.
Thanks, Rahul. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, everyone. And a big thank you to everyone for such an engaging discussion. Special thanks to all our panelists and our moderator for being here today and making this possible. And another thank you to all our attendees who are here with us today. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe and yep. Have a nice day.